The Shanghai Cooperation Organization has begun in Samarkand, the first in-person meeting of the world leaders since 2019, the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi landed late last night in Samarkand, ruling out his participation in the pre-summit events. Even Chinese President Xi Jinping skipped the group events, including the informal dinner, despite being present in Samarkand. These are visuals of the Prime Minister landing in Samarkand late last night. And also the Prime Minister will be meeting President Putin. He will be meeting Russia's Putin today, and this at a time when Mr. Putin has already met with Xi Jinping yesterday. That is Russia and in fact Chinese leader meeting as far as the SCO is concerned. To get more details, we have my colleague Maha joining us. Maha, that crucial meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Putin to take place today, what's on the agenda?
Yes, that will be the first meeting after the lunch and after the SCO Summit gets over. The agenda of the meeting has been outlined largely by the Russian side, and they have said that they are going to discuss India's presidency of the UNSC and G20. The presidency discussion as far as United Nations Security Council is concerned is significant here because India will hold the chair for the United Nations Security Council in the month of December. That's towards the fag end of its non-permanent membership in UNSC, and it's also the time that the price cap on Russian oil will kick in, which the G7 has in fact decided to push for, so that, as they believe, the revenues that Russia is getting from export of oils to countries like India and China and others, that gets capped in a sense that it doesn't fuel the war in Ukraine. At least that's the thinking of the Western side on this, and therefore the significance that this particular phrase holds, that the Russian side pointed out, that this will be discussed in tandem with cooperation at multilateral platforms between Russia and India, certainly at this point is significant because at that point Russia might want to raise the issue at every multilateral platform as well, the Ukraine crisis. As far as the Ukraine crisis itself is concerned, under that, yesterday we saw when the Russian President Vladimir Putin had a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. In his opening statement, he also spoke about certain concerns that China would have, and he would like to address them. Now, that is very significant, and much has been speculated on what concerns China has really expressed. As far as the crisis is concerned, China had in the start voiced its opinion that this should be wrapped up in a manner where dialogue is also given an option and sovereignty of Ukraine is also maintained. Now, with the losses that Russia has suffered in Kharkiv, whether it can give any further pulls or reins really into the hands of the Ukrainian side, how the West will respond to it. All these could have been matters that Russia may have wanted to clarify, China would have wanted to clarify with Russia. So that significant point made there. So certainly the crisis in Ukraine, one important aspect that looms large over this SCO summit as well.
Right, Maha, to get more on this, we have our guest joining us, Dr. Tara Kartha, the former directorate of NSCS, and also we have with us, in fact, we have Sheel also joining us, Sheel Kant Sharma, former diplomat with us. A very good morning to our guests. Maha, well, the major meeting that's taking place today, that summit that has begun. Let me take my first question to Tara Kartha. The Prime Minister is going to be meeting Putin today. What can we expect? What would this mean for India?
Well, obviously there's going to be a talk on Ukraine. I mean, that's going to be a major thing, one assumes, especially since China has expressed concerns. I suspect those concerns are quite, well, similar to what we might have. However, I hope the other things are also expressed which are more directly in line with our, our strategic interests. One of which is that, that with major oil companies from the West moving out of Russia, like I think Total has limited its investments, a bunch of companies have moved out. I think it's time India took a hand in that. You have a possibility of getting these hydrocarbon assets. Third is the fact that Russia is going to be, you've just seen President Xi's visit to Kazakhstan. There's a whole bunch of agreements which have been signed. He's been honored with this special award ceremony and all that. And this is going to make Russia quite uneasy. So there is a problem here of a weakened Russia who is facing a China with much more muscular, with a larger presence. Let's make no bones about it. SCO is a body which is China dominated. It is the first platform where China wants to push back against an expanding NATO, and that is what SCO is. It's not anywhere near that as of the moment, but that's what it is. So if we want a role in SCO, you have to get Russia on your side. I think that's what we need to, broadly, that's what we'll look at.
All right, let me also take up a question over here with Shilkant, who is joining us on this broadcast. The schedule doesn't show that the Prime Minister will have any conversation separately with the Chinese President Xi Jinping, but speculation is rife that some pull aside could happen because we have just seen a disengagement in Gogra Hot Springs, Patrol Point 15, that could pave a way for this conversation. Do you think that might also be necessary for India at this point? Because India will be hosting the SCO Summit next year. That chair will be handed over to India at Samarkand, and therefore will India have to communicate both with China and Pakistan, who are both part of the SCO?
Well, the SCO next summit is still way off. We have to worry about the present summit. So I think worrying about what will happen the next SCO summit is a bit premature at this juncture. As regards Prime Minister's meeting with Xi Jinping, we have not seen any reports so far whether Chinese side has also expressed interest. That being so, both sides have played a bit, keeping their upper lip tight. As regards the disengagement on PP15, there is the statement by our External Affairs Minister, who said it very, correctly and precisely, that one problem less. However, we all know the whole gamut of problems which were brought forth by the Chinese action in 2020. So unless all of that is resolved and status quo ante is restored, I think it is too early to say about business as usual. As regards meeting, our Prime Minister meeting the Chinese President, our Prime Minister has always been very forthcoming. In the past, his outreach was always very good. He went out of his way to meet and cultivate leadership, and his own visits to China. So it's not that India is showing any reluctance in that sense, but the situation is such that, and the Prime Minister's words are very, profound when he says meeting just for its own sake. He's not that, well disposed to it. He's not that keen for those such meetings. Meetings should also lead to some results. We are at a juncture in China, with relations with China, where these meetings should produce positive results. So, is there any indication of that? The status quo ante request, the Chinese Global Times, etc., have dismissed this. And according to our reports, I'm not in the government, so I'm just talking privately what on the basis of public sources. Because the Chinese side does not take India's line that they don't think that this petroling, these buffer zones have been created from where we have been told to.
All right. So Shilkant Sharma, we'll wait to see whether anything on that aspect does take place today. Also, let me quickly take a question with Ma'am Tara. Ma'am, at this moment, we are now here in SCO, seeing the start of the summit. The leaders have just started arriving, let me point out. at the venue for the group photograph. Now, a lot of questions are being raised about the SCO itself and the RATS, the anti-terror group format under the SCO, wherein there is a country like Pakistan, as India has raised that question as well several times, that continues to support terror on its soil. Is that not a contradiction? And how do these contradictions really get settled in a body like SCO then?
That's a good question actually. But you know, the thing is, SCO's rats, it's not a big deal, okay? It is, I mean, I try and think of the Chinese intelligence, for example, sharing information to this group. It's not doing it. So it is more of a kind of a showcasing SCO cooperation. In fact, just take a look at the SCO website, look at SCO statements. There's nothing in any of them. You know, it's still evolving. I won't write off SCO completely, but it's something. And RATS, as far as we've seen, has got nowhere. However, we've also taken part in SCO military exercises, no, with Pakistan. So that is what China wants. I mean, China wants that these countries should get together and there should be no tensions between them and so on and so forth. So that is the general idea. See, let's get this clear. Within these now 9 states of member states of SCO, India is the most stable. India has got the largest, not keeping China aside, it's got the largest economy, it's got a large market. That is why China wants us in SCO. And to be part of this order that China dominates. The question is, do you want to do that or not? Or going back to your earlier question, can you use your presidency of SCO to get your own objectives within this larger Chinese remit? So your objective is connectivity, your objective is to get your foot in these economies, to get the market flow, to get connected to all this. For example, Russia has got the largest gas reserves. Can we access that? Russia is one of the largest. So there's the whole question of the international transport corridor, which we've been trying to get through. There's Chabahar. These are our objectives. China's objectives are quite different. It is a kind of an anti-American slant. It is a more NATO-esque kind of a thing which it has vision for. Is that what you want? I don't think so. But nonetheless, we will give token participation in all these military exercises. So it is a body which is evolving, where your role has to still play out. You decide what you want out of this. In that, Pakistan will have to be part of it. That is a given.
Right. Let me take my next question to Shrilkant Sharma. It's a key meeting. Many in the West keeping a close eye as all countries particularly targeted by the West, whether it's Russia, Iran, China, Belarus and even Turkey, they are finding a common cause.
Well, you know, as one of these London Times comments which has been repeated in newspapers, that it's a gathering of the anti-West dictators. This is very unfair because India actually brings to that gathering a democratic country with 75 years, which is celebrating, and with excellent credentials about plurality and every dimension of a democratic setup. So it lends a certain credibility to this organization, which otherwise has people like Erdogan and Pakistan's Prime Minister and Iran's president, who in the West have been vilified as being countries ruled by dictators. In the case of Pakistan, it's the deep state which is ruling the country. So, that SCO has been trying to find its feet in the multilateral order. Now, I want to mention that the multilateralism which we want is also in Asia. We want Asia to be multilateral, multipolar. Asia not to be just dominated by one country. And that is our concept of the multipolar world. So SCO, does it help us spur everyone in that direction? So that's where I think what Tarakata mentioned, these are the key issues which should be debated and discussed in the SCO, which will be for mutual benefit or for the common benefit of everyone. Like connectivity and using these links which have been on the table for a long time and putting them into action. So and of course fighting terrorism, which has been the plague for the last 30 years. And if you want to cut that short and start giving technical excuses for keeping terrorists out of the searchlight, then it shows different intentions. So when you look for a multipolar world and when you want to reach out to the world for center stage, then you should have principles, not realpolitik or devious self-interest.
Okay. All right. Shilkant Sharma and Tara Karta, both of you, many thanks for joining us here on this discussion. Leaders of the SCO, that is the 8 leaders of who make up the SCO, have started arriving here at the conference center for the group photograph, after which the restricted level talks are going to start. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has just arrived for the group photo as well. With that, I'm handing it back to Divya.
So much, Maha, reporting from Uzbekistan. All eyes on that key meeting taking place. And of course, Prime Minister Modi will be meeting President Putin this evening, and that's expected. What all will take place, we will keep tracking that story.